guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another video in my How I Revised series. So today I'm going to be talking about how I revised for GCSE History. So as usual, just a little bit of background before we start. I was on the old specification, the A star to G system, so my GCSE may have been different to the start of your GCSE. I know for the new ones there is quite a lot more information, but these revision methods will still apply, you've just got to do more of them, I guess. I was on the AQA exam board and my result for GCSE History was an A star and I actually got 1 off full marks. So I'm just going to get straight in there with the first tips. This probably isn't going to be a very long video because I didn't do that many different methods for history. I kind of just found the ones that worked for me and then just did those ones. So my first tip would be to do flashcards. I did flashcards for all my topics in history. It's pretty much the main method of revision that I did, and I got 1 off full marks, so that just shows that it does work. So what you need to do to make some flashcards is collect all the information that you need for GCSE History. There is a limited amount of information that you need for GCSE. It's not like A-level where it is unlimited and you can just keep reading and keep reading and keep reading and everything is relevant. There is a limited amount of things that you need to know for your exam, so find something that has all that information in it. It might be a revision guide. I mean, our school gave us these sheets that had all the information that we needed on. I don't know what I've done with them and I don't know what they were called, so that's not very useful, sorry. But revision guides, I know I have spoken to some people that are on the new GCSE and they do have everything that they need in them. These are the CGP revision guides, by the way, and they do have them for all exam boards. I will link them down below in the description. So if your school doesn't give you a revision guide anyway, you can go and buy your own, and I really recommend doing that because it's so good to have all the information that you need in one place. And having this information in one place does create a good sort of base to build your flashcards on. So then what I do is I would sort of categorise and section all the information in your topic into different sections and chunks of information. You can condense down the information if you do need to, but as I said, there is a limited amount that you need to know for GCSE, so this might not be necessary. So I would categorise the information, say it was an event that happened, into kind of the causes of the event, what actually happened, and then the consequences of the event. And once you've categorised all your information into chunks, you can then transfer them onto flashcards. So using my example from just then, I would have a flashcard for what caused the event, a flashcard for what happened in the event, and a flashcard for the consequences of the event. And I would do this for all of the topics, and you can do this as you go along. You can do this right at the start, or you can do it like I did, as in you make a pack of flashcards after you have finished doing a topic in school. So here are my flashcards for GCSE. I've only got 5 here. I do have 6 because I had 6 topics. I don't know how many you have now, but I had 6. But my 5th one is at school because for some display, I don't know. So I have Origins of World War I, Weimar Germany, Hitler's Germany, Peacemaking in the League of Nations, Hitler's Foreign Policy and Step to World War II, and then Race Relations, which is at school. And I do have a video in which I show these flashcards and kind of point out how I do them, so I will link that somewhere up there if you want to know how to make some flashcards. But flashcards are the main way in which I revised for history. So as I said, I did mine after we'd finished going through a topic, and I really recommend making your revision resources earlier on in the year. History can seem very overwhelming, and I do get that because there's so much information, but trust me, you will make your life so much easier if you just make them earlier on. Making revision resources during exam season is never ever a good idea because it will just add to that stress, it will add to that pressure, and kind of you'll have limited time. But if you make them earlier in the year, then you'll have everything that you need to revise during exam season, which will be the biggest help ever, trust me. Because I made those flashcards, as I said, as we went along through the year. So then when I got to exam season, when it was the night before the exam, I just went through them and I'd covered everything that I needed to know. If you want to see how I use those flashcards, actually before the night before my history exam, then I do have a study with me for that evening, so you can go watch that if you want as well. Basically what I'm trying to say is I'd make revision resources for history earlier on in the year. Literally, the earlier the better. The more work you do earlier on in the year, the less you will have to do later on. Also, a revision method that really worked well for me for GCSE history was making flowcharts. So I would never make my flowcharts as kind of detailed as I'd make my flashcards. I'd make my flashcards for the details, and then I would make flowcharts to kind of remember the order of events, the order in which things happened, etc. For example, I made a flowchart for the Abyssinian crisis and the Manchurian crisis, so the order in which things happened. This is what flowcharts are really good for remembering dates and remembering the order of things. Also, they're a really good way to test your memory and test how much you learn. I did this a lot. I sort of quickly scribbled down what I could remember the order of events of, and then I would check it and then correct it, etc. I couldn't find any of my really pretty flowcharts, but here is one that I said I quickly scribbled down to try and remind myself of the order of events. So this was the Abyssinian crisis, and as you can see, I just write it down in a really simple flowchart shape, and then I just quickly write what happened in each date, and then this is the same thing over and over again. So I'd do it first, I'd check it, and then kind of remind myself of it, then try and do it again and get everything, then try and do it again, etc. until I had sort of mastered it and I knew the order. You could even make a sort of flowchart mind map hybrid, and this is what I did, but this is actually at school again for that display thing, so I don't actually have it to show you, which is unfortunate. But what I mean is if you put the flowchart like that one, really simple flowchart, just in the middle of the page, you can then sort of draw legs off all of the dates and sort of add extra information, add what happened, add who was involved, etc. I haven't really talked about mind maps in this video because, to be honest, I didn't do them for GCSE history. I found I've done quite a lot for A-level history so far, and that works really well for me, but I know that they can work for GCSE history and I thoroughly recommend them. I just personally didn't do them to revise GCSE history, and obviously this video is about how I revised, so I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I made mind maps when I didn't. But as I said, they may work really well for you, they may work better for the new GCSE, so I would recommend trying them out. You never know unless you try, and mind maps may work a lot better for you than they ever did for me. So my last tip is to do practice questions. And this is something that I say in every single How I Revised video, but it is so true and it is one of the best ways to revise. This is especially important for GCSE history because a lot of your sort of exam questions are marked based on your structure. Structure is so important in GCSE history, so I would really recommend making sure that you know the structure that you need to do for each exam question, because depending on the exam question, the structure that you need to use does sort of vary, so I would definitely make sure that you know that. And obviously a really good way to practice using the structure is to practice doing exam questions. If you can't find any online, I'm sure there will be somewhere online. You can always just ask your teacher to make some up for you. You could use the specimen papers, etc. It's just really good to practice, and obviously this will then put what you've learned from your flashcards, from your flowcharts, into kind of motion, and you will be going over the things that you revised, and it will also test if you've actually remembered it or not. So we did a lot of practice questions in school, so we did a lot of structuring your exam questions, structuring your answer in school, and then our teacher would mark us on it. But if your school doesn't do that as much, then there's no reason why you can't do it yourself. You don't need to rely on your school to provide you with methods of revision. You can do that all on your own. Having feedback on your exam answers, as I said, will always help your structure of your answers. It will point out your weaknesses, it will point out where you're losing marks, and this is always a good place to build on your weaknesses, build on the things that you're losing marks on. This is especially important for closer to exam season because you will have a limited amount of time as the months kind of draw closer. So it's best to highlight these weaknesses earlier on, so then when you have this limited amount of time, you can go over the things that you are weakest on and not waste your time revising things that you already know. This is the same for exam questions. If you can answer one type of question perfectly and you do it well every time, then there is no point in practicing that style of question over and over again. Do something that you're weaker on, do something that you struggle with the structure of more, etc. I mean, it's sort of common sense, but a lot of people I know, and I'm guilty of doing this sometimes myself, you do revise the things that you already know because it makes you feel good, because you know it all, but that is not the point. You need to know everything really well, so make sure that you are focusing on the areas that you're weaker in and not focusing on the areas that you are already good in. So that was pretty much how I revised GCSE history. So I made flashcards, I made flowcharts, and I did lots and lots of practice questions. As I said before, there are other methods that may work better for you, and obviously everyone doesn't revise in the same way, so I would recommend trying other methods. And if you guys have any methods that work better for you, or any methods that you think work well for the new GCSE, then please do comment them down below in the comments. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and as usual, make sure to like, subscribe and follow my social media, which will be linked down below in the description. Bye guys!